Homelessness in California. Changing policies to make solutions. A complex problem causing conflict and requiring everyone to compromise. Homelessness increased and became a major problem in California in the 1980s and continues to be a problem today, one that is complicated and costly. This problem created conflict amongst citizens and government officials. Do we cut funding or do we help people? Or better yet, can we cut funding and help people? How do we keep homeless out of our neighborhoods? The government tried to eliminate unnecessary spending and cut programs such as HUD, Housing and Urban Development, and societal problems such as homelessness seem to increase, leading to the conflict amongst our government and within our neighborhoods due to a new homeless epidemic. Homelessness is a problem that causes conflict because it's so complex an issue. It costs money to eliminate or get better, and if we don't find a remedy, it can lead to decreased property values, increased crime and drug trafficking, and overall dirtiness in our neighborhoods. It's an issue that has to be debated and addressed in a holistic way. The problem that causes homelessness in the first place has to be addressed. By studying the history of homelessness, however, there are some trends that can be noted and addressed, and a compromise can hopefully better address the problem in the near future and lead to a decline in homelessness. According to LISAR Development Consultants, statistics have already shown that this has begun to work in areas like San Diego and Riverside. When the U.S. Department of Housing and Development, HUD, did a survey, it was estimated that around 565,000 homeless people sleep on the streets or in shelters every night. According to my reading, the causes of homelessness vary. They include drug abuse, lack of affordable housing, domestic abuse, and mental illness. In addition, according to my interview with Margaret McWhorter, who worked for Stand Up for Kids in Carlsbad, the leading cause of homelessness in youth.
So currently, right now in San Diego County, it's typically the aging out of the foster system.
Okay.
Or being passed around inside the foster system and no longer wanting to live in group homes.
Okay.
But we're also seeing a large trend with LGBT young adults becoming homeless.
Okay. Mental health institutions. Because of that repeal, there was a need to empty out the institutions. Then the mentally ill had no place to go except for the streets. Because of that, there was an influx of mentally ill homeless onto the streets with no place to go. The mental institutions were emptying out their patients. Prior to the 1980s, after the Vietnam War, there were more homeless veterans because there were very few places.
Started roughly 30 years ago.
Okay.
The local chapter here in Oceanside has been open for about 20 years.
Okay. With their hands held out, hoping for some spare change. This is not always the case. Homelessness doesn't necessarily mean sleeping out on the streets. It means going from hotel to hotel or living in an overcrowded house with a friend as well. This also goes to show you that often the homeless problem is large, more than what meets the eye. More often, children and families are sleeping on a couch or in a different hotel each night. You have to remember the definition of homelessness, the state of having no home. This doesn't necessarily mean sleeping on the streets like what probably comes to mind when we think of homelessness. The rate of homelessness in California is higher than in most other places in the U.S. because of the higher cost of living. A permanent compromise has not yet been found, but many advances have been made in order to find compromises that are both economical and humane, compromises that help the individual as well as the society as a whole. The homeless problem has created conflict among society as well as lawmakers. Many people in California see homelessness as a personal conflict not concerning themselves, but it does concern them. In their city, children might not have enough food to eat or have to sleep in the cold, affecting how they do in school. This means that they have a higher probability to be homeless because they weren't able to get the education needed. This cycle will continue. Some of the conflicts that homelessness causes is that it sometimes creates a dangerous situation on the streets, causes decreased home values, and is a contributor to higher crime rates. There are also consequences for the homeless. According to Boston University, they have higher premature mortality, skin and foot problems, and dental problems. At this time, we are better prepared to create compromises for the conflict of homelessness. We have more knowledge than we had in 1980, and there have been some success in solving the homeless problem. We have seen that we must treat the mentally ill and drug problems of homelessness in order to treat the root of the homeless problem. How? Housing First is a program that noticed the trends in the research and learned that by first putting people into shelters or homes, they are then able to locate them and provide wraparound services for them. These wraparound services include mental health, drug addiction help, counseling, financial planning, then vocational training, and job placement help.
We, the people, tell the government what to do. It doesn't tell us.
Punitive tax policies and excessive and unnecessary regulations, plus government borrowing, have stifled our ability to update plant and equipment.
As government expands, liberty contracts.
When capital investment is made, it's too often for some unproductive alterations demanded by government to meet various of its regulations. Our aim is to increase our national wealth so all will have more.
But man is not free unless government is limited.
The Housing First program is costly, but through much debate and conflict, it has been determined in different cities that a compromise can be made by funding this through a mix of state and federal funding, as well as by getting church and public backing. In this model, Housing First is provided by shelters, tiny houses on church property, city-paid houses in neighborhoods, and group homes. When I went to the Housing First Information Night in my city, I learned that this idea too can lead to another conflict. Homeowners don't want the homeless on their streets, but they also don't want them living in their neighborhoods. Where can these homeless be housed? A compromise will again have to be reached. All must pitch in and take ownership of this problem that affects everyone in order to come up with a compromise. Problems such as homelessness are huge and complex. They come with conflicts like figuring out how we help, who's paying for it, and where do we house these people. In the end, the government, taxpayers, and citizens all have to work together to come up with a compromise. Everyone must first learn the history and nature of the problem, then holistically tackle fixing it in a way that is affordable and can help everyone so that all of society is helped and a true compromise is found. Programs like PATH, Stand Up for Kids, Tiny Housing, and Hot Meals program also help with this compromise.